A 4-year aphid and ant infestation in a backyard brassica bed, cleared in under 9 days. The cost? $2 and change at the grocery store. The bed had been hammered every spring, neem oil, insecticidal soap, hand picking, ladybug releases. None of it held. The breakthrough was a small white container of boric acid mixed with sugar and warm water. Within a week, the colony farming those aphids was gone. Yet the story turns strange at exactly that point. Boric acid has been quietly restricted or heavily regulated for outdoor garden use in 19 states, tied up in pesticide registration rules most home gardeners never hear about. Meanwhile, the same powder has been used for pest control for over 1,000 years, starting with Tibetan borax miners in the 8th century. Before this is over, one specific addition to the bait recipe, something those Tibetan traders included, roughly triples the kill rate. Almost nobody uses it today. Most gardeners cycle through whatever sits on the garden center shelf. Synthetic sprays. Organic alternatives. Crops still disappear to squash bugs. Kale rows collapse to aphids 3 summers running. The cycle is exhausting and expensive. The shift often comes from buried sources. A 1948 Agricultural Extension Bulletin mentions boric acid bait the way modern guides mention drip irrigation. Obvious. Standard, universally used. The story starts in the 8th century. Tibetan miners pulled raw borax crystals from dry alkaline lake beds high in the Himalayas. Trade caravans carried the mineral down through Persia and west into Europe over hundreds of years. The application stretched far beyond pest work. Borax preserved meat. It cleaned wool. It also killed insects. The 1800s opened a different route. American operations in Death Valley, California, refined raw borax into boric acid, a more concentrated and chemically purer powder. The scientific validation came later. During the 1940s and the 1950s, agricultural researchers at Purdue University and the United States Department of Agriculture ran formal field trials. The findings held a clear pattern. Boric acid, at concentrations between 1 and 5% in a sugar bait, eliminated entire ant colonies within 7 to 10 days. The mechanism explained the consistency. The powder disrupts insect digestion and degrades the exoskeleton from inside the body. Insects cannot evolve resistance because boric acid is a mineral, not a synthetic neurotoxin. So why did the knowledge go dark? Boron is a soil micronutrient at trace levels, but excess accumulates and damages plants. State regulators, concerned about farm-scale misuse and groundwater contamination, quietly pulled outdoor pesticide registrations across 19 states. The product stayed legal for indoor ant traps. The garden applications taught in those old bulletins disappeared. Home gardeners measuring in teaspoons were never the regulatory concern. The knowledge vanished anyway. 2 powders get confused, and the mistake wastes the entire effort. Borax is sodium tetraborate, the laundry aisle product. Boric acid is the refined version, finer and purer, sold for roach and ant control at hardware stores. For outdoor pest work, boric acid is the right choice. A 1-pound container costs around $2 and lasts 3 full seasons. The label should read 99% boric acid, technical grade. No fragrance. No additives. The most effective application is the sugar water bait. Ants farm aphids. They move aphids between plants, protect them from ladybugs, and harvest the sugary honeydew the aphids secrete. Killing only the visible aphids accomplishes nothing. The ants import replacements within a day. The colony itself has to fall. The recipe is precise. 1 cup of warm water. 3 tablespoons of white sugar dissolved completely. 1 teaspoon of boric acid stirred in until invisible. That ratio creates a 1% solution, low enough that worker ants carry the bait back to the nest before they die. The delayed action is what reaches the queen. Cotton balls soaked in the mixture sit in shallow lids tucked under a rock or piece of wood. 3 to 4 stations per raised bed. Within 48 hours, ant activity surges dramatically. The surge signals the bait is working. By day 7 to 9, the trails go quiet. Direct contact dusting handles a different set of pests. Squash bugs, cucumber beetles, earwigs, and cutworms hiding at the base of stems respond to dry powder application. A quarter teaspoon dusted around the plant base, never on leaves and never near flowers, sticks to insect exoskeletons and disrupts the waxy outer layer that holds in moisture. The result is dehydration over 24 to 72 hours. Conventional broad-spectrum spraying kills pollinators, beneficial predators, and soil life along with the target. The mineral approach is precision placement, where pollinators do not forage. Reapplication follows heavy rain. 4 or 5 applications cover an entire growing season. The perimeter barrier stops invasions before they begin. A thin, dry line of boric acid, roughly 1/8 of an inch wide and 2 inches in from the bed frame, creates a mineral barrier that ants, slugs, and earwigs will not cross once exposed. 1 pound covers the perimeter of roughly 8 raised beds, each 4 feet by 8 feet. Insects must physically cross that line to reach the plants. The powder collects on legs and bodies. The line stays effective only when dry. Application happens on a sunny morning. Reapplication follows rainfall over a quarter inch. Warmer zones require a monthly refresh during the growing season. Soil protection is the rule beginners break. Boron is a plant micronutrient. Vegetables need it, but only in trace amounts. Excess causes leaf yellowing, stunted growth, and in severe cases, plant death. The principle is simple. Boric acid never gets worked into the soil. Application stays on the surface, in targeted spots, in baits, or along perimeters. When followed correctly, the total boron reaching a bed in a season is a fraction of a teaspoon. Pollinator protection is the final layer. Bait stations belong away from flowering plants. Nothing in bloom gets dusted. Timing favors dusk or early morning when pollinators are least active. Stations sit covered by a rock or an upturned flower pot with a small entry hole. 4 common mistakes account for nearly every failure. The first is spraying aphids directly while ignoring the ants. The visible population drops, satisfaction is instant, and the colony imports replacements within 4 days. The second is confusing borax with boric acid. Laundry borax at high concentration kills worker ants too quickly. The colony survives. Slow is the goal, not fast. The third is over-application. More powder is not better powder. The fourth is applying in wet conditions. Boric acid needs dry contact to work. The bonus addition traces back to old Tibetan trade records. Traders did not use refined sugar in their borax preparations. They used heavy unrefined cane sugar, what India calls jaggery. The closest modern equivalent in North America is blackstrap molasses. Adding 1 tablespoon of blackstrap molasses to the standard recipe transforms the result. Ants and roaches respond to complex sugars and trace minerals far more strongly than to plain white sugar. The molasses makes the bait roughly 3 times more attractive. Colonies that took 9 or 10 days to collapse finished in 5 to 6. That single addition is the difference between a station that takes a week and one that empties by sundown. $2 of powder, a cotton ball, a spoonful of molasses. The lost knowledge from a 1948 bulletin. Alive again in a backyard brassica bed.